Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Batra, page 149b. With the words Shayar Karka Kol Shehu Matanosoi Kayemis. Vichama Kol Shehu Amar Rav Yehuda Marav Karka Kedei Paradisasoi. Rav Yehoshua Abba Omar Mertaltelin Kedei Paradisasoi. The Mishnah teaches in 146b, if a person on his deathbed reserved for himself any amount of land, his gift stands even if he subsequently recovers. The Gemara asks, and how much is meant by the term any amount? Rav Yehuda says that Rav says this means land that is sufficient to provide for his livelihood. Since he reserved this land for himself, one can assume that he wished to transfer the rest of his property in any event. And Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba says, even if he reserved for himself movable property that is sufficient to provide for his livelihood, his gift is valid. Amar Bizera kamo michavnon shmai tosa disabi karkatamamai diikoi samachalei mitaltalei nami Rabbi Zera said, how meticulous are the halachic statements of the elders Rav Yehuda and Rav Yirmiyah. With regard to land, what is the reason that he must have reserved enough for his livelihood? The reason is that if he recovers, he will rely on that land for his livelihood. With regard to movable property as well, if he recovers, he will rely on it for his livelihood. Maskif la Rav Yosef Umay kavanoso man de Omar mitantalin karkatinan man de Omar kedei panisasoi kol shehu tanan. Rav Yosef objects to Rabbi Zera's statement. What is meticulous about these statements? The statement of the one who says the gift is valid even if he reserved for himself movable property is difficult, as we learn in the Mishnah that he must leave himself land. The statement of the one who says that he must leave himself an amount sufficient to provide for his livelihood is difficult, as we learn in the Mishnah that his gift is valid if he reserved for himself any amount. Amar le Abaya v'kol heicha ditani karka dafka v'hotanan akoysev kol achasav le'avdoi yotza ben choyrin shi'al karka kol shehu lo yotza ben choyrin. Rabbi Shimon omer le'olam hu ben choyrin עד שיאמר כל נכסי נשאוני לפלוני עבדי חוץ מאחד מריבוי שבהן. Abaya said to Rav Yosef, and anywhere that the term land is taught, does it mean specifically land? But didn't we learn in a Mishnah in Peah 3:8 with regard to one who writes, meaning gives via document all of his property to his Canaanite slave, the slave has been emancipated? But if he reserved for himself any amount of land, then he has not been emancipated, as perhaps he reserved the slave for himself as well. Rabbi Shimon says he always becomes a free man, regardless of the wording of the document, even if the owner reserved land for himself, unless it says in the document, all of my property is given to so and so, my slave, except for 1/10,000th of it, as in that case it is possible that the master meant to include the slave in the portion that he is not giving away. Consequently, the slave is not emancipated.